Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. This is the first video in my top 10 series for 2025. Every year I do this series where I go through my top games of the year, and I don't just do my top overall games, though I will get to that. That will be the last video in the series, just sort of my favorite 10 games of the year, no categories. But I find when I'm looking for new games, I often have specific things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a family game. I'm looking for a cooperative game. I'm looking for a small box game. And so I do these top 10 category videos. I played over 300 games for the first time in 2025. I play a lot of games. I go to a lot of conventions. I go to a lot of retreats. I go to a lot of game days, all that sort of stuff. So I get a chance to play a lot of new games, and so I have a lot to pull from for these top 10 videos, but I will be doing a series this month, of category videos, games that came out in 2025. But every year, I start my top 10 game series with a video that's actually not games from 2025. This is my top 10 new to me games. These are older games that I played for the first time in 2025. And part of the reason I start this series with this video is a reminder to myself and to anybody else watching that, this hobby can be whatever you want it to be, and we get caught up in all of the new releases, and I understand why. There's a lot of great new games coming out all the time, but don't be afraid to go back and play things that you missed along the way. Don't be afraid to go back and play older games just because you've always been curious about it. I mean, that's what I try to do every year. I try to make sure that I go back and play some games where I'm like, I always wanted to play that one, but I never got a chance to. And so, let's do that. Let's play that game. And so, there is no right or wrong way to be in this hobby. So yes, play new games, but also play anything you want, even if they're older things. And so the way I do this sort of top 10 new to me games video is they have to be things from 2023 or earlier. This is not just stuff I will tried to get to in 2024 but didn't make it to. These are 2023 and earlier games, and so these are my top 10 of that sort of thing. Number 10 is the game Animals Gathering from 2023. First of all, this game looks gorgeous. The art style is abstract and beautiful. It looks really cool on the table. It is a dice rolling game where you are rolling dice and then taking the shapes and pieces that you rolled on the dice and add them to your animal card. There's a little bit of an engine building aspect to the game because as you put pieces on the animal cards, when you finish the animal cards, they're going to get you special abilities. They're going to come into your sort of tableau and get you a special ability. So there's a little bit of engine building in the game. The most interesting aspect of the game is that you are going to roll more or less dice each round. And if you roll sides of the dice that you can't use on your animal cards, then everybody else gets to use them. So there's this tension of I want to roll more dice to make sure that I get what I need to finish my cards, but I might potentially be helping everybody else. I'll help everybody else finish their animal cards too, so I don't want to roll too many dice. So that's an interesting aspect each round, is choosing which dice to roll and how many of them so that you finish what you want to finish but don't overly help other players at the table. With any game that has dice rolling, there's a healthy amount of luck in Animals Gathering. So know that going in, but it's a 30-minute game, so I don't mind that in a sort of lighter family weight game. In number 9, I have Escape the Curse of the Temple. This is a game from 2012, and it is a real-time game. And I know real-time is sort of a kryptonite word to a lot of gamers, but the nice thing about Escape from the Curse from the Temple is that it's a 10-minute timer. Literally, the game is 10 minutes. So it is frantic and it is chaotic, but it is also over very quickly. And so if you hate the experience, it won't be that much of your life. It's a cooperative game where you are moving through a temple and, trying to roll dice and get specific faces on the dice to both add more tiles out into the temple, to take gems off of this sort of totem thing, and the more gems you get off, the easier it is for you to get out of the temple before it collapses, and you're trying to find the exit and get out altogether, and you only win if everybody gets out of the temple together. And so it is literally like keep rolling. Oh, you got this? Okay, no, we're doing this. It is frenetic for sure. But again, it's a short game, and it's I don't mind that chaos in a short game. And so it is one of those ones where I feel like there are big table moments, right? If you get out and there's only 20 seconds left on the clock, you're like, yeah, everybody's high-fiving. I like games that have memorable moments, and I feel like Escape the Curse of the Temple does have memorable moments. In number 8 is the game Wordsy from 2017. I don't like word games. Typically, I'm not a big word game guy. Whenever I play Scrabble or Boggle, I just get crushed. I'm good at a lot of games. I am awful at word games. I don't know why. I am a well-read person, but I just can't see the words on the table. I just can't, when we're doing Boggle, I'm always like the last to see any of the words out there. Wordsy is, if I was going to play a word game, it would be at the top of my list. I think it's one of the best word games I've played, because there are going to be some letters out on the table, and you can form any word you want. You could completely ignore the letters on the table if you wanted to and just spell anything willy-nilly. You could spell willy-nilly, but you're not going to score that many points that way. The whole idea of the game is there are letters that are sort of worth various points, and so the more of those letters you can use in a word, the better you're going to do. But it didn't make me feel dumb like some other word games, because I'm just like, oh, I can spell anything I want to, and then I'll just grab this letter, and I'll grab this letter, and I'll grab this letter, and yeah, that's all right. That's an all right score. I'm still probably not going to win many games of Wordsy, but I still felt involved in a way that I don't really feel like. I felt competitive in the game in a way that I don't often feel like in Scrabble or something like that. So, the sort of open-ended nature of the spelling in Wordsy made it a word game that I can get behind. So yeah, that's my number 8. In number 7 is the game The Same Game from 2023. This is a party game, and I feel like it's a pretty unique party game. It's interesting because you are giving clues, and there's some word association, and we've seen plenty of word association games, games like Codenames or So Clover or Just One. But the difference with The Same Game is you're almost giving clues to tell people what to avoid rather than to get them to guess that thing. There will be a trap, and there are categories, and you're giving a clue that will sort of associate your word with another word, and that people can avoid that word. And I know I'm not explaining that super well, but there are categories out on the table, and it might be like how you use it, or its weight, or its material, or things like that. And so if the thing was lawnmower, well, I would give the clue laundry machine, because those don't have a similar use. They aren't used for the same thing. They don't have the similar shape, right? They might have similar material, you know, they're both kind of made out of metal and stuff like that. So you're just trying to come up with a clue, and everybody else is discussing cooperatively, going, okay, I think we're safe to flip over this one. Yep, it clearly wasn't it wasn't the weight of it. Those are way different things. Okay, yep, it wasn't this one. And you are trying to eliminate categories and get it down to just the one category. So it's like a cooperative association game that feels very unique and different than other cooperative association games I've played. So if you're looking for sort of a clever and thinky party game, like the same game, definitely when you get it right, you do feel clever. You're like, oh, hey, you wanted to say this, but I said this, and like, I don't know, it just feels good for sure. Number 6 on my list is the game Santorini. I never played Santorini before. It's one, like, there are games on this list that I have seen for a long time, right? And I just never played them. Santorini obviously has really great table presence. You are building up buildings, and they look like the buildings of the Greek island Santorini. They're very pretty, white and blue domes on top. And so you're building up these buildings, moving meeples around, using god powers in various different ways, and trying to defeat your opponent. Santorini is mostly a 2-player game, head-to-head game, where you are playing against the other player. They did, I believe Roxley Games released a new edition of Santorini this year, so partly why I finally wanted to play it was I wanted to compare the new edition to the old edition, and the component quality is very nice, and the artwork is updated and things like that in the new edition. But it's a 2-player game that plays very quickly. If you're looking for sort of a game you can play after you put the kids to bed or something like that, Santorini is a game that plays in 20 minutes, and it's a fun head-to-head game. The new edition has a lot more god powers in it, and that will change how the game plays. That'll give it a lot more replayability. So yeah, just a great 2-player game. Number 5 on my list is the game Canvas from 2021. Canvas is a really gorgeous game about painting artwork, and I think it's a card crafting game where you are going to be getting these transparency cards, and the transparency cards have some symbols on the bottom and they have some artwork on them, and you're going to be sort of sleeving them together and building a painting. And so at the end of the game, you have very pretty cards, which is fun. You feel like you created something, you felt like you made something, and that is a good feeling in a game. I think one of the reasons that I hadn't played Canvas before was I thought, okay, well, it's very pretty, but is there that much game here? I was worried there wasn't enough game there, and there's plenty of game here. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this love Canvas and have played Canvas, and you're like, yeah, there's a lot of game there, dummy. And I finally know that. I finally get that. I know that now, and I'm sorry it took me this long to play Canvas. I've had it on my shelf for literally like 3 or 4 years, and I just finally played it this year. It took the Going Analog podcast people to teach me the game and get it to my table, so thank you to them as well. But yeah, you're sort of adding symbols to the bottom of your paintings, and then there are various different scoring conditions, and you are trying to meet scoring conditions to score more points. So yeah, check out Canvas. Number 4 on my list is Marvel Dice Throne from 2022. And to be honest, any Dice Throne. I hadn't played a single Dice Throne until this year, and this year I ended up playing my Season 1 re-rolled. I played the Marvel Dice Throne. I played the new X-Men Dice Throne one. I got into the Dice Throne system, and it's a really great 2-player game. I admit I haven't played it at more than 2 players. I've only played it at 2 players. I don't know that I really want to play it at more than 2 players. It's just such a good 2-player head-to-head battle game that I'm very satisfied with that, and I'm not really trying to play it at other player counts. As I mentioned, I played like my Season 1 re-rolled version, and I played Marvel Dice Throne, and I definitely would lean towards the IP versions of Dice Throne, just because they did a really good job with Dice Throne of making you feel the characters that you know from X-Men or from Marvel or from things like that. They did a really good job where you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Thor would throw his hammer and then he'll get it back at certain points, and so I don't know, just it feels cool when you have a connection to those characters and they make sense. It's a little more. You connect to it a little bit more emotionally than you do like the regular Dice Throne, where it's just kind of generic characters. Like, those characters are good too. They play very well. They're cool artwork, all that stuff. I just don't sort of feel as emotionally connected to them as I do with the Marvel version. It is a dice rolling game where you are essentially rolling dice Yahtzee style and then assigning them to various positions on your player character, and those positions will attack and defend in various different ways, and so it's all about sort of comboing and hitting and defending, and every character plays different, and that's some of the fun of Dice Throne, is just experimenting and trying different characters and finding which ones you like and which ones you don't like and which ones fight well against other ones and stuff like that. There's a lot of replayability in exploring all of the characters in Dice Throne. Number 3 on my list is the game Lacrimosa from 2022. I also played this one with the Going Analog podcast people, so, this is my second shout out to them, so, listen to their podcast if you don't already. Lacrimosa is a sort of medium plus weight game, but I love medium plus weight games where turns are quick. The game itself might be 2 or 3 hours, but each individual turn is snappy, and that keeps me invested. That keeps me wanting to play it. That keeps me from getting bored. Lacrimosa has an amazing theme as well, and the theme really comes across in the gameplay. You are patrons trying to finish Mozart's last, concerto after he passed away, and so you're hiring various musicians, you're getting influence, you're traveling around, you're just trying to finish these pieces, these famous musical pieces. And so one of the cool things also is like there's a lot of sort of dual use cards in the game, and that always makes for fun in games because it makes for tough decisions where you're like, I want both the top and the bottom of this card, but I can't use both the top and the bottom, so what am I going to do? Am I going to slot it in the top of my board? Am I going to slot it in the bottom of my board? How do I want to do this? There's also a lot going on. Most medium plus weight games, I feel like, have a decent amount going on, but nothing here is overwhelming. Lacrimosa was a game that I felt like by halfway through my first game of it, I'm like, okay, I got it. We're cooking with gas here. I feel good, even though that there's a lot of strategy and a lot of things going on. So if you like medium plus weight games, then definitely check out Lacrimosa. Number 2 on my list is the game War Chest from 2018. If you are a fan of games like chess, then you have to check out War Chest. This is one that's been, again, on my shelf of shame for probably 5 years, and I finally forced myself to play it this year. It is a bag building combat game, I guess you would call it. You have different troops, and you're playing with different faction troops, and you have these cool tokens. And you start with a few of them in your bag, but you can add more into your bag as the game goes on. And then you'll be drawing chips from the bag and deploying them onto the battlefield, moving, using their special abilities, and attacking your opponent. And you want to be the last person standing. You want to defeat your opponent. And there's a lot of various different factions, and they all have special abilities, and the base game has a bunch, but there's also a number of expansions for War Chest as well. If you've played through all of the factions from the base game, it's one of those sort of thinky, interesting, 2-player abstract games. If you want If you want like something that's like, you know, it's like Santorini, but maybe a little bit more meat here. There's a little bit more strategy, a little bit more going on, the games are a little bit longer, a little bit more in depth. So again, it's an easy recommendation to anybody that likes chess or things like that. War Chest is very fun. And my number one new to me game for 2025 is the game Welcome To from 2018. This is a game that has been sitting on my shelf of shame since 2020. I bought it in early 2020 and then just never played it. And you know, it's kind of the game that helped popularize the flip and write genre, and I like a lot of flip and write games. You know, Super Mega Lucky Box comes to mind right now. But you are flipping these cards, and there will be a few cards sort of in the market, if you will, and you are using the combination of location and action from the cards showing, and you are building out your neighborhood. You know, it's a flip and write game, and so I don't know why I did quotes there, but it's a game where it is a flip and write game where then you will be writing, you know, things on your player sheet and building out your neighborhood. And you know, you want pools in certain places, and you want numbers in certain places, and you want fences in certain places. And so it's a real interesting puzzle of just how do you build this neighborhood, how do you get this stuff where you want, and how are you using the cards that are available to us. Everybody at the table has, you know, 3 sort of sets of cards available to them, and you need to use it better than anybody else does. And so it's an efficiency puzzle, and it's a game, you know, that feels pretty strategic, that plays in like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. The other cool thing about Welcome To is you can play it with as many people as you want. You know, you're literally flipping the stuff in the center of the table, and if you have 20 people, you could do it as long as they can see the actions available to them, and that's pretty cool as well. So yeah, those are my top 10 new to me games of 2025. I'll be back soon with my top party games, my top cooperative games, and my top family games, and my top strategy games, and a bunch of them. But you know, I hope you're getting to play lots of great games. I hope you're not afraid to go back and play older games or play things in your collection that you've had for a while and haven't gotten to the table and stuff like that. So, you know, thanks so much for being here. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Grant's Game Rex, I can say the name of my channel, and I appreciate, you know, I'll be at a bunch of conventions next year and stuff too. So, you know, come find me. I'll see you soon. Hey, oh, also, I'll be in the Bay Area next week doing my Green Team Wins live show on Wednesday, December 10th at Rooster T. Feathers Comedy Club in Sunnyvale. So please come to that. It's a lot of fun live show. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.